Support for The Leadoff on WGLT and WGLT.org comes from the Central Illinois Regional Airport, connecting Central Illinois to the world with daily flights on Delta Airlines to Atlanta. Close, convenient, CIRA. More at CIRA.com.
You're listening to a special Fun Drive edition of The Leadoff. Good morning, I'm Ryan Denham. All this week, WGLT has been showcasing some of the makers who have made Bloomington Normal a manufacturing hub. It hasn't always been that way, as WGLT's Eric Stock reports in our series Made in Bloomington Normal.
10 years ago, Bloomington Normal wasn't known for manufacturing. Mike O'Grady was vice president of the Economic Development Council at the time. He was part of a delegation that flew to California hoping to convince Mitsubishi Motors to keep its car factory in Normal open. That effort failed. O'Grady says that was a wake-up call.
Looks like we got an awful lot of eggs in one basket. We have heavy, and we looked at our industry, heavy banking, heavy in education, heavy in medical. Where's the manufacturing?
And as for those industries that had carried the Twin Cities, State Farm was expanding out of state, and colleges were bracing for an enrollment cliff. That lack of business diversity was a vulnerability. So when a startup automaker offered to buy the massive and outdated car plant to build electric vehicles, O'Grady says community leaders decided they had to do everything to make it work.
Is it worth us taking a chance? Auto manufacturing, that's tough. It was kind of a scary decision to move forward, but we did.
It did work. Rivian far exceeded even its own expectations and became one of the area's largest employers. Rivian isn't the only success story that helped revitalize Bloomington Normal's manufacturing. An ag implement maker from Canada, Brandt Industries, opened its first U.S. facility when it bought an industrial plant north of Normal in 2018. That same year, candy maker Ferrero bought the former Nestle plant in South Bloomington. The site now houses the company's only North American chocolate factory. Bloomington Normal's manufacturing workforce has nearly tripled in the last 5 years. Total wages have increased fivefold. Patrick Hoban, CEO of the Bloomington Normal Economic Development Council, has seen a lot of that growth. Hoban grew up in Decatur, a city built on manufacturing. Think ADM, and for a long time, Bridgestone Firestone. He knew the economic ripple manufacturing jobs create.
We know how big the multiplier is. The standard across the nation is about 3 to 1. So if you add a manufacturing job, that usually supports 3 other jobs, whether that is indirect from a supplier or induced from any one of the restaurants or retailers that support them.
Hoban says Bloomington Normal has economic advantages. It's centrally located in the U.S. and in Illinois. It has 3 interstates, and it has an abundance of available workers. More than 1 million people live close enough to Bloomington Normal to commute to work.
If you shift that labor shed around between Champaign or Peoria, us being in the middle, we get their labor shed. And so our labor shed is stronger than all of theirs because if you get to Champaign, you start losing Peoria.
Hoban says the area also has an abundant supply of energy. That's important to manufacturers as they automate more operations. Hoban says part of McLean County's success story in manufacturing also comes from predictable tax incentives. Developers know going in what's available to them. Hoban got Bloomington, Normal, McLean County, Gibson City, and Ford County to agree to standard incentives they'd previously resisted.
I was actually told when I got here that it'd be a pretty heavy lift to get that pulled off between all 5 entities to agree.
Rivian, Ferrero, and others later used those incentives to grow. Hoban says a standardized package gave employers certainty and far less time in negotiations.
Our role in economic development is to create an environment where a business and even a citizen wants to invest. And in order to do that, you have to eliminate risk and uncertainty.
The agreement on standardized incentives is an example of cooperation that's key to economic development. It doesn't always happen, though.
It's interesting. You would think that they would all get along, but unfortunately, in every community, they don't.
That's Mark Denzler from the Illinois Manufacturers Association. You can hear more of this story later today on Sound Ideas. We have more on our series Made in Bloomington Normal at WGLT.org. I'm Eric Stock.
Hi, this is Steve Inskeep with NPR News, and I'm so glad WGLT has given me an opportunity to say this. We are all figuring out the world together, and your financial support keeps local news strong. At a time when journalism is under attack, honestly, and public media lost federal funding, of course. But people who use this service have always been the largest single source of support for this service, so it goes on as long as you want it to.
Stand with a free press when you donate at WGLT.org.